Acts of Blood is an action beat-em-up that caught my eye, and I couldn't wait to get my hands on the demo because of its impressive looking gameplay and what I thought was clear inspiration from the Indonesian martial arts film The Raid. Turns out, my hunch was right. The Indonesian developers Exil team absolutely deliver on presentation reminiscent of it. As for the gameplay, it's solid. Nothing that will blow you away, but nothing that'll make you retch in disgust either. It's rough around the edges, and since the game doesn't have a release date yet, I'm hopeful Exil will be able to iron things out. I wanted to give this demo a proper shot, because there's actually quite a bit to it. One story mission, a handful of survival mode stages, and a series of unlocks for combo moves and kit upgrades. There's also a surprising number of clothing options to buy, which I didn't expect. You get hours of playtime out of a free demo, which is genuinely nice. Once you get into the action, you'll immediately notice the similarity to the Batman Arkham combat system, complete with highlighted counter windows, a score multiplier, and that sense of free-flow combat those games are known for. It takes that foundation and fuses it with more traditional action game conventions like combo strings and the ability to pick up and use weapons. I say a sense of free flow very deliberately here because despite the game having great presentation, flashy moves, and brutal executions, the combat can sometimes feel stiff and unresponsive. It doesn't string every hit seamlessly together across different targets the way its blueprint does, which is probably intentional. You aren't Batman after all. But I also think part of that comes from what feels like inconsistent physical feedback and game logic. At times you'll input the same button combination in the same rhythm and it just doesn't work. This is especially noticeable with combos that require you to hold a button on the final hit of the string. Other times you'll try to hit an opponent behind you, tilt the stick in their direction, and just swing at the air next to them. Range also feels inconsistent. Sometimes you can hit a guy who looks 10 feet away, and other times you can't reach someone who seems well within range, and there's no clear indication why. This inconsistency also extends to counterattacks. Most of the time, if someone attacks from behind, you can counter without issue. Other times, you just eat shit, even when you're not in the middle of an animation. There are also occasional instances where two enemies attack at the same time, and there doesn't seem to be a way to counter both yet. If you try, either one counter cancels the other out, or you just get clipped by the second hit. Additionally, every enemy has a stagger meter, meaning they'll block most of your attacks and even attempt their own counters, which you have to stay aware of. It takes some getting used to, but once you understand the game wants you to use kicks and hold combinations to break enemies open, you'll have a much better time maintaining the flow. If you just mash, combat slows to a pace that isn't enjoyable, so I can appreciate what the devs are aiming for in terms of push, pull, rhythm, and skill requirement. For example, if you mash punches, you're probably going to get countered all day, which slows everything down. If you mash kicks, combat gets stale. Aside from everything else I mentioned about combat, Acts of Blood also features gunplay. It doesn't feel great, but since this is primarily a beat 'em up, I can forgive that. To use a gun you pick up, you have to click R3 to aim, which locks you into a third-person shooter view. It's a little awkward at first, but it actually feels intentional. Once you're aiming, you're vulnerable to attacks from behind or the sides if you're not paying attention. It creates a risk-reward trade-off that fits the combat's emphasis on positioning. There are also some parkour elements advertised on the store page, but the single story mission in the demo doesn't really showcase or utilize them much. At this point, there just isn't enough there to meaningfully comment on. The game also has some visual bugs and inconsistencies. Sometimes you'll get hit while initiating an execution, which knocks you out of the animation, but the enemy will continue reacting as if some invisible man is finishing the job. It's funny, but obviously something that needs fixing. There are other small visual quirks to the game as well, but they're minor issues at best, so they're not really worth mentioning. I also see some design issues that, based on this demo, could be problematic. A player who doesn't engage with the full tool set in good faith will probably gravitate towards mashing kicks and nothing else, because it's simply too effective. It even turns the boss, Jaggle, into a bit of a joke. Enemies don't seem to have a reliable way to deal with kicks, which is a head scratcher. While I do like the idea of hold inputs with combo strings, I'm hoping the full game offers a more robust selection of skills or specials to add depth. What's here just isn't that deep, and the more you play, the more trivial encounters start to feel. Overall, I do enjoy the demo. There's fun to be had, but as it stands, it's rough. Like, wait for a sale rough. I appreciate the premise, the presentation, and the core ideas here, but there just isn't enough refinement yet for it to be truly compelling.